Hi, this is King Bucho. Welcome to BDA Boxing in the News. We're going to be talking about the latest news and rumors. I'm here with Mr. BDA. Let's get this started. So, Fundora and Spence, that fight that people, the fight that people were talking about for a long time is not happening. That is official now. And so the question is, who is Fundora going to be fighting now? And the rumor is that he's going to be fighting Joey Spencer. Joey Spencer. What do you think about that, Mr. BDA?
Well, first of all, it's insane how Spence activated, or somebody from his side of his team activated a rematch clause against Crawford, and it seems in hindsight that they knew full well they weren't going to fight Crawford, so they effectively sidelined Crawford for about half a year. That never came about. Now that we're talking about the Fundora fight for about a year, and then that's not going to happen. So what was the plan? Again, what was the master plan from all those eckheads over there at the PBC? It makes no sense. Be that as it may, the last time we saw Joey Spencer fight was in March 2023, and he was getting beaten to a pulp by Jesus El Mono Ramos. Since then, he's fought Marcelo Fabian Buzowski, who's got a stellar record of 11 wins, 24 losses. Then he beat Janet Gonzalez 21-6. And then he beat an undefeated Miguel Angel Hernandez, who's 9-0. And again, I don't really try to focus too much on the records. I focus on the performances because we've seen some fighters who have horrible records, but then they're actually pretty good, decent fighters. But the point is, I'd like to know why exactly Joey Spencer is getting a title shot, beating that level of opposition. I mean, that doesn't sound like the type of guys who are
Mm-hmm.
contenders, fellow contenders. Like, oh, well, I beat these guys, therefore now I'm a contender. So it's not a very interesting fight.
Well,
Sebastian Fundora also with yes.
the WBO said that Fundora needs to fight a top 15 fighter from the rankings. If that doesn't happen, and Fundora loses, then that title would go immediately to Terence Crawford, who's the interim title holder of the WBO. So,
So
and by
there's
the way,
two title
Bohachuk
holders.
is a name that people are bringing up. I don't know why he doesn't fight Bohachuk. That would be a great fight. And Charles Conwell, he also wants this fight. Apparently, he's very apparently they asked. I read this on Boxing News, and he said he would be very excited to fight against a guy who holds two belts. So these are more interesting fights than Joey Spencer.
Well, I mean, we talked about Conwell in the last episode where we were surveying the 154-pound division over at our regular channel. And Conwell, I mean, yeah, I'd be more interested in seeing Fundora against Conwell. Conwell's undefeated. He seems very relaxed. He's a strong guy. Just based off the so-called eye test, I think he's a better fighter than Joey Spencer.
Hmm.
So I'd rather see that fight made. But I mean, again, he's with Golden Boy, whereas Joseph Spencer is with the PBC. So obviously that's probably an easier fight to make there for Fundora. But what I was going to say real quick is Fundora also talk about momentum killers. The guy beat Tim Zhu early last year, 2024. Never fought the rest of the year, and now his big comeback fight is Joey Spencer. I mean, put that into perspective.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Well, this was a tweet from Rick Glazer on the 16th of January, and I'm going to just sort of go quickly through it. Not going to read all of it, but he said that according to a solid source, Amazon Prime will be dropping the PBC in May as the PBC failed to hit minimum pay-per-view numbers. And this would be the 12th platform that has permanently disassociated themselves from the PBC since its inception in March 2015. So, what do you think about that?
First of all, let me just rewind real quick. I mean, just before we continue on with this, remember I told you Joey Spencer's last win was against a guy who's 9-0.
Yeah.
Apparently, I didn't know this, but Salida Promotions just put that fight up on YouTube, and apparently it's a robbery.
Oh,
So
shit.
this guy's coming
Yeah, I gotta
off. He's
watch
coming off
that.
a questionable.
Not terrible.
He's coming off a questionable decision, and then he's getting a shot from Fundora. Anyway,
Well, then,
back to this.
going back to Rick Glazer, that's one of the reasons the PBC is dying.
Mhm. A very good point, Bucho. I mean, it's you made the very selling point. I mean, about a year ago when 2023, when these guys were only fighting once a year over at the PBC, and people were, somebody once called in and goes, "Well, I thought you guys said the PBC was dying," and then you said, compare it to where it was 2 years earlier. You're telling me it's not on a downward trajectory, and I saw the downward trajectory in 2022 because Jimmy, we got a pretty good panel, and Jimmy was making some very persuasive points, which really made me see that, yeah, the PBC is going down in 2022. Just to recap real quick, remember 2022 was a year when they still had Showtime, but that's when their top fighters, their top talent was only fighting once a year. I mean, remember, Jermell Charlo only fought once that year. He had a very good performance, but it's his best career performance when he stopped Castaño to get all the belts. And what did he do? That was in the summer of 2022. What did he do afterwards? Didn't fight the rest of the year. I mean, he didn't fight until September 2023 and he fought Canelo. So their top talent only fought once. Spence only fought once. Charlo only fought once. Wilder only fought once. Tank Davis only fought once. Then 2023, they had a mini resurgence, but it was an illusion. The resurgence came from the fact that they made the best fights possible, but they were all on pay-per-view. And then other than Garcia, Tank Davis, the pay-per-views didn't do all that well. Caleb Plant versus Benavidez was a box office flop on pay-per-view. Yes, Plant versus Benavidez, I said. What was the other pay-per-view that they had? Oh, Crawford Spence. They tried to tell you, oh, he did 700,000, didn't do that. And they had to pay these guys big bucks. So I don't know if they broke even or they didn't make that much money. So they put on those type of fights, which were good, but they're all on pay-per-view. So like I said, it was an illusion. It was like the big fish puffing up to try to create the illusion that it is hostile and that it is dangerous. And that's what the PBC was doing because, like Jimmy said, they were flexing to try to get Amazon on board and saying, hey, look at all the talent we've got. Look at all the great fights we can make. But they were all on pay-per-view, and they didn't even do that well. So now let's fast forward to 2024 when they get to their big Amazon deal, and they only had 5 events that year. So, Butcher, let me ask you this. Let's say you're a businessman, right? You get to offer a product. You go to Amazon, and they look at all the networks that have dropped you. Showtime, Fox, NBC. What was it? Was it CBS
12.
that they also paid?
Yeah, Glazer mentioned 12 platforms.
Spike, HBO before that. Because remember, Heyman was with a lot of Heyman fighters were HBO in the LA 2000s, where it was Steve Kim coined the Heyman boxing organization. Mm-hmm. They were putting on some of the worst fights from HBO history back then. So let's say you're the next network. Let's say it's Black Prime, right? Let's say they want to get into boxing, and they look at okay, so Amazon dropped them, all these other networks that we mentioned dropped them. Now let's look at their talent. What do they offer? Because maybe Black Prime is like, well, they got some good fighters. Okay, let's see what they got. They got a mid-30s Jermell Charlo who hasn't fought in September. So they're going to be, let's say he fights on Black Prime. Let's say he fights in March of this year or April. It's going to be over a year layoff, almost 2-year layoff, right? Mm-hmm. Wilder, who's a guy in his late 30s, a 40-year-old guy essentially, who's been knocked out in his last fight, and before that lost all 12 rounds against pretty much against Joseph Parker. So coming off 2 losses, 40-year-old guy. Who else? Errol Spence, punch drunk guy, pretty much basically special needs now. Watching the horses go merry-round on his ranch. That's what they're gonna. Caleb Plant. Okay, Caleb Plant's the only guy who's still in his prime, but he's not a star. So Butch, I ask again, you're Black Prime, whatever, and you look at that level of talent. How much are you willing to pay for that?
Exactly. The numbers are not good. They're not going to be good, obviously, because they're not putting on the fights that people want to see. They're putting on garbage. Mm-hmm. And so, we'll see what happens with that. We'll talk about it on the Open Lives Friday show. Moving on here, we also have news from Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, who apparently the WBO is ordering him to fight his mandatory challenger, Yuniel Dorticos. If you guys remember Dorticos, he fought Bradis in 2020, September 2020. That's when he lost to Bradis in that final. Since then, he has 3 fights, 3 decision wins, but against apparently very poor opposition. He's given until February 15th to reach an agreement. If no agreement is reached, the fight goes to a purse bid. What do you think about this fight? And what do you think about the disappointment of him not fighting Opetaya next?
Well, we'll see if the Sheik intervenes with those deep pockets of his. Maybe they can bypass this fight or this mandatory. However, I wouldn't mind seeing Zurdo versus Dorticos. Dorticos is always a guy that brings it, relatively entertaining. Although, like you said, he hasn't fought anybody of note since then. Although I must say, just like with the Joey Spencer fight, we really need to watch the fights to see how he looked. Because like Joey Spencer, we mentioned earlier, it says he's got a win over an undefeated guy, but then you watch the fight, turns out he didn't really deserve to win it. So maybe Dorticos looked like crap against those nondescript opponents, or maybe he looked like Mike Tyson. He's 38, by the way. And
Hmm.
the cruiserweights nowadays are pretty much heavyweights, but he's a guy that's always relied on coming forward and working his opponents. And right now, Zurdo is a younger guy who can do all of that seemingly better or a faster pace. So I would expect Zurdo Ramirez to beat him, but I'm still, Zurdo's had a renaissance this last year, but I'm still not sold on the guy. He's not the perfect technician. He can be hit, he can be outworked. So it could end up being a close fight, but it's a decent fight.
Dorticos is 38 years old, by the way. So I don't know if it's going
Hmm.
to play a factor. All right, moving on. We're not going to go really deep into this. Maybe I'll make a separate video, and we'll definitely talk about it on the next live stream. Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney are going at it on X.
Oh,
Devin Haney actually just he tweeted, "Once I go to 147, I will never go back down." What do you think that means, Mr. BDA? Do you think that message is targeting a specific person?
he said once I go back, once I go. What did he say? Once I
Once
fight,
I
I'm not
go
going back
to
down.
147, I will never go back down. I think he's
Yeah,
talking about
meaning
Teofimo Lopez, like saying, you know what, if we don't fight now or we don't fight at some point, we're never gonna fight. Or maybe Tank Davis, because I don't think Tank Davis can make 147, right? I don't
yeah.
understand the post, to be honest.
I don't understand who's gonna fight whom because I mean we were hearing rumors that it was gonna be Teofimo Lopez versus Garcia. Then it was Garcia Haney too. And now you're saying these guys are, Lopez and Haney are joining at each other. I don't know what's going on. It's just another case of these young American fighters just doing more jawing outside the ring than actual fighting inside the ring.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't think. Listen, Butcher. I think we can all agree that Haney is not fighting at 140 anymore. I think even his father said that the 140 that if they fight Garcia again, it's not going to be a 140. None of those guys can make 140 anymore.
Yeah, they say Haney's camp. Somebody from that camp, from that side, said that the fight will take place at 147 because they know that Ryan Garcia cannot make 140. So
Yeah, there you go.
that's the rumor. I mean, there's a lot of rumors. I mean, we can go through them just quickly here. Uh, according to two sources, this is from Boxing Scene. According to two, there's they're gonna strike a deal for two fights, one in October and one in February 2025. So that would be two Garcia Haney fights, and Garcia would have to enroll with VADA testing. What else do I have here? Also, they would be fighting on the same card in early May. So a doubleheader card with Haney and Garcia. Yeah, what do you think about these rumors, Mr. BDA?
Again, I don't know who's going to fight whom until they make a formal or official announcement. Rather, not
Oh,
all that interested in. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. Haney would be fighting apparently Jose Ramirez. That would be his
Hmm.
sort of tune-up fight. And then Ryan would also fight somebody on the same card. And then October and February.
October and February.
Yeah, then they would fight in October and February.
You mean February and October?
No, 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 no. They're not gonna fight next month. I'm saying they would. Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney would fight both on the same card in May, and then
Uh
they
huh.
would fight each other in October, and then they would fight each other
Hmm.
again in 2026,
Oh, okay.
February
See, okay, I
2026.
missed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that they were thinking that far ahead. But yeah, I mean, listen, Garcia. First of all, let's get the boring one out of the way. Ramirez versus Haney. I mean, Ramirez looked awful against Barbosa. Couldn't pull the trigger. And I know Haney's not that much of a mover. He's more of a clincher or a guy that bends below the waist to clinch you. But I think he's got a very good control of range, a very good jab. He's certainly faster at this point than Ramirez, both in terms of hand speed and reflexes. So I don't see Ramirez being able to close the distance anymore. That's a fight that I'm not interested in seeing at all. And then Garcia, Pitbull Cruz. I mean, Garcia doesn't get enough credit for how well he controls the range for being, that tall a guy and against such a short guy. I mean, Garcia is above average in height, and Pitbull is below average in height for a 140-pound division fight. So I don't see Pitbull doing much there. I'm not interested in those fights. Man, how about you?
No, but you know what? If they're gonna be fighting in the same card, and if we get a guarantee that they will be fighting in October. I don't really see a problem with that. They can stack the card up with,
Hmm.
Haney, then Garcia fights, and then you have some other interesting fights. I wouldn't mind that, to be honest. I wouldn't mind. There was even a rumor that His Excellency wanted them to fight in Times Square outside. That would be for the early May card. So the
Hmm.
double header would be taking place outside Times Square. I mean, I don't. These seem
It's
like
very
very big
gimmicky.
plans.
Very gimmicky. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it. They need to spruce things up
I
with
like the
this type
vision.
of events and venues. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
vision
That's
too.
one
Let's see
thing
if they
to.
can.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if they can pull it off. All
Hmm.
right. Well, I think that's pretty much covers it all. We'll keep you guys updated if anything happens. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, to the main channel. Links in the description. Check out our Patreon. Free content. Just subscribe. It's for free. And also, if you wish to donate to the show, check out buymeacoffee.com. Link in the description. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next live stream. Take care.